The Sodder children, 5 kids, vanished from a burning house, and no bodies were ever found. A house caught fire in the middle of the night. 9 children were sleeping inside. 4 escaped with their parents. 5 were never seen again, and despite a fire hot enough to supposedly cremate everything inside, investigators never recovered a single bone, tooth, or trace of human remains. Decades later, their mother was still receiving letters she believed were from her missing children, grown into adults. On Christmas Eve, 1945, the Sodder family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia, caught fire in the early morning hours, and George and Jenny Sodder, along with 4 of their children, managed to escape the burning structure, while the couple's 5 other children, ranging in age from 5 to 14, remained inside and were presumed to have died in the blaze, a genuinely devastating loss that, on its own, would represent an unambiguous, if profoundly tragic, house fire disaster, were it not for a specific, sustained accumulation of unexplained circumstances that led the Sodder parents themselves and considerable numbers of subsequent researchers studying the case to genuinely, seriously doubt that the missing children had actually died in the fire at all. The specific circumstances surrounding the fire itself raised immediate, genuine questions even in its immediate aftermath. George Sodder attempted to reach the upstairs bedrooms where the children slept but found the usual staircase route blocked, and when he attempted to use a ladder he kept specifically for this kind of emergency, discovered it had inexplicably been moved from its normal location, a detail that, combined with the family's 2 vehicles both failing to start that same night despite having functioned normally in the preceding days, struck the Sodders as genuinely, specifically suspicious, rather than simply the kind of unfortunate coincidental bad luck a genuine accidental fire might otherwise produce. What proved genuinely most significantly puzzling to investigators and the Sodder family alike was the specific physical evidence, or rather the specific absence of physical evidence, that emerged following the fire's aftermath. Despite the house burning to the ground, and despite a local fire investigation team initially concluding the blaze had likely been sufficiently intense to completely cremate the 5 missing children's remains, subsequent, more careful examination raised genuine questions regarding whether this conclusion was actually scientifically sound. Since crematoriums designed and engineered specifically to achieve complete cremation of human remains typically require sustained temperatures and burning duration considerably beyond what an ordinary house fire, even a genuinely severe one, would typically generate or sustain, meaning the specific claim that the fire had completely eliminated all physical trace of 5 human bodies faced genuine, credible skepticism from individuals with relevant technical expertise studying the case's specific circumstances afterward. George Sodder, initially accepting the fire department's conclusion that his children had died in the blaze, eventually became convinced the official explanation was fundamentally incorrect, motivated substantially by a combination of the missing physical evidence, several documented reports from local witnesses who claimed to have seen the missing children, or vehicles matching descriptions connected to potential suspects in the hours and days immediately following the fire, and, in a detail that proved particularly significant to his suspicions, credible information suggesting the family may have been specifically targeted due to George's own outspoken public criticism of Benito Mussolini's fascist Italian government delivered in front of other members of Fayetteville's local Italian-American community, some of whom reportedly held opposing political sympathies, creating a genuinely plausible, if never definitively proven, motive for the family to have been deliberately targeted. The Sodders, convinced their children had actually survived and been abducted rather than killed in the fire, spent the following decades pursuing every available avenue to locate them, erecting a large public billboard along a nearby highway, specifically featuring photographs of the 5 missing children, and offering a substantial reward for verified information regarding their fate. A public billboard that remained standing for years, becoming a genuinely significant visible symbol of the family's sustained, unresolved search. In 1968, the Sodder family received a genuinely significant, if ultimately unverifiable, piece of potential evidence, an anonymous letter sent to Jenny Sodder containing a photograph of an adult man the sender claimed was her missing son Louis, along with a cryptic message referencing details the family found genuinely, specifically credible, though the letter provided no verifiable return address or further identifying information. And despite the family's sustained efforts to trace its origin, the letter's actual sender and the true identity of the photographed man were never definitively established, leaving this specific piece of evidence, like virtually every other lead the family pursued across the following decades, genuinely tantalizing but ultimately inconclusive. The Sodder case has never been formally, definitively resolved, with the official cause of the children's deaths remaining, in most formal historical accounts, attributed to the original house fire, even as the specific accumulated body of circumstantial evidence, the moved ladder, the disabled vehicles, the absence of any recovered remains, the credible local sightings, and George's own documented political tensions within the local community, has continued generating genuine, sustained investigative and public interest in alternative explanations for decades following the original 1945 incident, including renewed formal excavation efforts at the original home site conducted decades later, specifically intended to search for any physical remains that earlier, less thorough investigation might have missed. Excavation efforts that, consistent with the case's broader pattern of persistent unresolved mystery, similarly failed to recover any definitive physical evidence one way or the other. What makes the Sodder children's disappearance endure as one of history's most genuinely unsettling unresolved mysteries isn't simply the tragic loss of 5 children under circumstances a house fire alone would already represent, but the specific, sustained accumulation of genuinely unexplained physical and circumstantial details that never received a fully satisfying official resolution. A family left for the remainder of their lives genuinely uncertain whether they had lost their children to a tragic accident, or whether those same children had actually survived, been taken from them deliberately, and lived out entire adult lives their parents were never able to locate or reconnect with, despite decades of genuinely sustained, devoted searching. If stories like this, where the physical evidence itself never fully supported the official explanation, and a family spent decades searching for an answer that never definitively came, are exactly what you come here for, subscribe to The Grave Details, because history holds more stories like this than most people will ever know.